my heart like racing. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kari and today's video is going to be a Summerween reading vlog. To make this TBR, I actually rolled my D&D dice to help me pick. I posted a video on TikTok of that entire process and walking through the reads, but basically what I did was I rolled my 1d6, which is just a 6-sided die, to help me pick how many books I had to check out from the library, which I obviously rolled a 4. And then I rolled a 1d12 that helped me pick 4 different Summerween reading prompts. So let's go through the prompts that I rolled and the books that I ended up picking. The first prompt that I rolled was to pick out a book that was either a cult or a psychological thriller. I ended up picking Never See Me Coming. This book follows our main character, Chloe Severa, who is a freshman student at university, where she is a participant in a 4-year-long clinical study on psychopaths. She herself is a clinically diagnosed psychopath, and being a part of this program, they are required to wear a smartwatch that tracks their moods and their movement. There are 7 other students in this study with her, and one of them actually ends up being murdered. So the game of cat and mouse begins, where Chloe is trying to hunt down who the killer is before she is next, while also enacting her plan of revenge on a fellow student. This book sounds really good, and I'm super excited to read this one for a psychological thriller. The second prompt that I got was to pick a summer camp horror book, but this prompt was so hard to find a book for. Every time that I would find a book on Goodreads that was considered summer camp horror, my library either didn't have it or said they had it, and I would go to try and find it, and I could not find it anywhere. After 30 minutes of looking for just this prompt alone, I gave up and decided to pick a book that was summer camp-esque, kind of adjacent, and that is The Woods Are Always Watching. This book follows 2 teen girls who just graduated from high school and are about to go off to college, but to celebrate before, they decide to go on a hiking trip in a national forest. They end up getting led off the trail and getting lost, and they stumble upon what is said to be a nightmare. This book is relatively small. I have no idea what said nightmare is. I'm deciding to go into it blind. This has a 4-star rating on Goodreads. I made sure to look that up because I was like, this is so vague. I have no idea what this even means. But this is the closest I could get to a summer camp horror book at my library. I am settling for this one and hoping it does not disappoint. The third prompt that I had to pick a book for was a witchy/folk magic book. I ended up picking up An Unlikely Coven. This book follows our female character, Joan Greenwood, who is a witch returning home after hearing the news that there is a spell that can turn a human into a very powerful witch, which threatens the Greenwood's place at the top of the magical world. When she returns home, her best friend actually tells her that he accidentally kidnapped said human, now powerful witch. And so basically this book follows her and her best friend trying to undo the spell before it does damage to its unwilling host. I'm excited to read this one. I think it's gonna be a little more lighthearted, less like eerie spooky, but I could be totally wrong. I have no idea. This book also had a pretty good rating on Goodreads. I made sure, because I've never read any of these books before or any of the authors, to check their rating on Goodreads. None of the reviews. I didn't get any spoilers before I read it, because if it was vastly rated below a 3-star, I didn't want to waste my time on it. That sounds mean, but I didn't want to pick up a book that I wasn't going to enjoy, or at least have the chance of enjoying. I already don't really read horror books or anything kind of spooky because I'm a wimp. Then for my fourth prompt, it was a pick a book that is mystery/whodunit. I ended up grabbing Stormtrack. This one also has a super cool cover, so I was instantly drawn to this because I was like, ooh, this looks spooky. And this is, I believe, the 7th book in the series, but these books are kind of standalone, interconnected, so you can read them out of order. This book follows Deborah Knott, who is a judge in a small town in North Carolina. There has been some small town drama that gets stirred up because one of the local lawyer's wives gets murdered. And so the killer is on the loose and on the hunt again for their next victim, and she gets entangled somehow in this story. So that's all I really know about this one too, but that's what I picked for my fourth prompt. I tried to pick all decently small books that would be quick to get through because I would like to read all 4 if I can, but I'm not gonna force myself to read all 4. So if I start a book and I really am not enjoying it, either writing style or plot, I will allow myself to DNF it, but I do have to tell you guys why I'm doing so. I can't just be like, oh, I put it down, not done, I'm done with it. And to make it a little bit more fun, rather than just reading them in whatever order I feel interested in, I'm actually going to roll my dice to help me pick which books I will read first. So I will roll the dice, and whatever number lands, 1 through 4, I will read that book, and then I'll roll the dice again to pick the next and the next. Down to as low as I can. If I get a number that has already been read, I will just keep re-rolling the dice until I get a number for a book that I have not read, because that's the only way I can really think about doing that. Along with having dice pick the order of book I read in, I'm also going to roll dice to pick the amount of time I am reading for each day. I'm going to try and read all these books within a week. If I get done before then I will end this video sooner, but I'm giving myself at least a week to try and read all 4. So each day I will roll the dice to pick the number of hours I have to read the book. So let's go ahead and just jump straight into it and roll the first set of dice to pick my first book that I'm reading. So I have a 1d4 dice, which is basically just a 4-sided die. It looks like a little triangle. This is what I'm going to be rolling to pick what book I will be reading first. And then I will also be rolling my 1d4 for the amount of time I have to read every day. So it could be 1 hour or it could be 4 hours. If there is any day that I cannot finish the allotted time that I roll, I will have to carry that over to the following day. So if I roll a 4 and I can only read for 2.5 hours, I will have to read for 1.5 hours added on to whatever I roll for the next day. This ensures not only do I stick to my rules, but also that I hopefully get my reading done. Let's roll our dice for our book selection. If you do not know how a 1d4 works, the point on the die that's facing up is the number that you rolled. So right now the 4 is facing up on this die, so that would mean that I would have rolled a 4. We're gonna have Unlikely Coven be 1, The Woods Are Always Watching be 2, Never Saw Me Coming be 3, and then Storm Track be 4. Oh no, I'm scared. This is what I rolled. You guys look first. I rolled a 2. So that means I will be reading The Woods Are Always Watching first. Now let's roll for the amount of time I will be reading for tonight. I'm also nervous for this because I really don't want a 4. I really don't want a 4. This first day, please, 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 please. It's already like 8 o'clock at night. Please, 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 please. I rolled a 3. Okay, so I have to read for 3 hours today, or read as long as I can and carry that time over. Let's, I guess, get to reading. It looks like this book is only 221 pages. 3 hours on the clock, starting now. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little scared now that I actually have to do it. People are not gonna believe me when I say this, but I am genuinely a wimp when it comes to scary things or anything remotely scary. I don't watch scary movies. I love fall and I love Halloween though. I think that it's so fun. But when it comes to actually doing the Halloween things and the scary things, I'm a wimp. So I enjoy the idea of it, but actually doing it is another thing. So please don't judge me for getting scared easily if I do so during this video. And I'm gonna start my 3-hour timer for today. I am at 2 hours and 17 minutes left in my 3-hour timer for tonight, and I am currently on page 59. I just started a new chapter. So far, I'm really liking this book. Our 2 main characters are Nina and Josie. They seem to be very different, like very opposite, but they are best friends. One of them is very shy and overly planned for everything and kind of anxious. And the other one is really brave and really headstrong and super independent and always comes off as like cool and collected. I have noticed a little bit of like tension between them. One is going out of state for college and the other is not. And there seems to be a little bit of tension with that fact and comparing themselves to each other and their differences. So I definitely sense some like tension building. There is is a lot of really funny moments. I really like the way that the author writes. I think that the characters are really funny too. I'm really liking it so far. I can feel the tension kind of building. Again, like one of them is very aloof about everything and the other one is hyper suspicious about everything. So I'm a little bit like, it almost puts the reader in a position to be like, what is the truth? Because both like POVs are so vastly different. Like, where is the actual reality in their situation? Nothing crazy has happened yet, but I can like feel it building. It is now Friday. It is about 2 in the afternoon. Last night I did finish The Woods Are Always Watching, and I feel like my brain was a little bit scrambled, so I'm going to revisit how I feel about this book. I'm gonna give this a 3.5 stars. It was super good. Lots of twists and turns that I was kind of like, I could feel my heart like racing as I was reading the book. I really do like our main characters. I like how different they are from each other. Like I had said earlier, they are quite opposites, but it's really interesting to see how they change over the course of this book and how they adapt to the circumstances that they get put in. I would highly recommend, if you're looking for a like short summer horror read, definitely pick this one up. It kept me on my toes, and the ending, honestly, I think the reason I'm giving it 3.5 and not 4 is the ending was not anticlimactic, but it was kind of like a, are you serious? This is what happens? This is, okay, this is how we're ending it, all right. You know, like it was still a satisfying conclusion, but not to the level of realism that I expected based on the writing up until that point. Let's go ahead and roll the dice for which book I'm reading next, and then we will also roll for the amount of time I have to read today. So what I came up with, because there is kind of an issue with only having 3 and then 2 books left in a 4-sided die, is that there are going to be numbers that I roll that technically are not possible like for me to read because there's no 4th option. So what I'm going to do is Unlikely Coven will be 1, Never Saw Me Coming will be 2, and then Storm Track will be 3. If I roll a 4, I'll just roll again until I get 1, 2, or 3. And then when we get down to 2 books, I'll figure it out when we get to that point. I'm just kind of going with the flow for now. So I ended up rolling a 3, which means I'm going to be reading Storm Track next. Let's go ahead and roll to see how long I'm going to be reading today. So I rolled a 2. I just have to read for 2 hours today, which is super feasible. I'm really glad I did not roll a 4. I will update you guys with my initial opinions once I get a few pages in and get a sense for who everyone is and what's going on. But let's get to reading. Good morning. It is day 3 of our Summerween readathon, and I need coffee and breakfast before we can get started on reading, so let's go do that. Now that I'm fully caffeinated and I ate breakfast, I can actually focus on reading. So I'm still in the middle of reading Storm Track. I am about 3/4 of the way through, like I talked about last night, so I have to continue reading this today, and then once I finish this book, we will roll to see between the last 2 books which one I move on to next. I do need to roll, however, though, for how long I will be reading today. I have yet to have to carry over time from one day to the next because I finished all my time or I finished the book that day. I have my 4-sided die and I'm going to roll again. I'm gonna roll into this little box that I have. I found this like little, I don't know, it's like a knick-knack box, and I figured that this would be a great place to roll so I don't have to like chase that die around the table when it falls or whatever. And it looks like I rolled a 3, so that means I have to read for 3 hours today. I will finish Storm Track today, and then depending on how much time left I have in my reading, we will roll the dice again to see what book I move on to next. think I know who it is, and it's not who anybody's suspecting. So I finished Stormtrack, as you saw. I think this one's hard to rate necessarily because I think it does a few things really well. I think that the small town drama was really intriguing. The plot drew me in. It wasn't necessarily like scary. I didn't feel suspense like building where I was like, oh my gosh, I'm afraid and I'm just reading the book. It did really well at a classic like whodunit style like thriller. It did kind of fall short for me in a few aspects though. There was a point earlier where I was like, oh, I think I know who did it, but nobody else is suspicious of this, but that actually was not who did it, so I was wrong. I think that I was thinking that the plot of the reason why the murders were happening was much of a more intricate plot than what it actually was. I think that this was supposed to be more of a simple, straightforward whodunit, not a like last minute twists and turns of like, oh my gosh, it was the butler, you know, like. And so I think it fell short for me in that aspect. I had higher hopes for the plot in the sense of like it was going to be revealed at the end and it would have like blindsided me. I think I was hoping for something that was not the intent of this book, so I kind of let myself down. And I think that when it was revealed who actually did it, it was kind of a letdown for me because I was like, really? That person? Like, it did keep me entertained. I really did like all of the characters, and I think that, you know, at one point where I was like, I think I know who did it, but then there's all these people that I'm suspecting. I think that was done very, very well. I think I was just let down by the simplicity of who had actually done it and their motive in the end. Like, I expected some grand reveal. I would say that The Woods Are Always Watching was way more graphic in the violence in detail than this one was. If I had to rate it, this one's probably like a PG-13, and The Woods Are Always Watching, I would probably rate like a rated R for the amount of graphic detail that was in them. With all of that being said, I think that I'm going to rate Stormtrack a 3 out of 5 stars. All right, I am now gonna roll for my next read. I only have 2 of the 4 books left. I have Never Saw Me Coming and then An Unlikely Coven left to read. So let's go ahead and roll to see which one. Because I only have 2 books and it is a 4-sided die, how I'm gonna do this is An Unlikely Coven will be numbers 1 and 2, and then Never Saw Me Coming will be numbers 3 and 4. I rolled a 3, so I'm gonna be reading Never Saw Me Coming. I think that this one is a book out of all 4 of them that I am most intrigued by. I think the idea of this book being about somebody who is a psychopath trying to solve a murder is really interesting to me. So I have pretty high hopes going into this, so let's go ahead and get started on reading it. I have just under 2 hours left on my time to read. I've paused it so I can talk to you guys. Already, we're off to a really interesting start. She's moved into her dorm. It's like her freshman year. She's very, I've noticed, analytical about everything. She has a reason for why she does everything. She studies everyone and their interactions, and there was a specific reason that she had picked this college, and it was because of another student. And at first I thought it was infatuation, but that does not seem to be the case. So I'm gonna keep reading for the next 2 hours, and I will update you when I am done. It is now day 4 of our Summerween readathon. I finished my reading last night. I have not had to carry over any reading yet, so I am just going to roll the dice again to see how long I'll be reading for today. I rolled a 1, so that means I only have to read 1 hour for today. I might read more depending on what I have to do the rest of the day, because I don't have a lot planned for this afternoon. I got a lot of things done this morning, so we will see if I read more than that. I will, but I think before I start reading this afternoon, I am gonna make a coffee. I just made some new coffee syrup, so let's go do that and then get to reading. So I was actually able to find the book that I'm reading right now on audiobook on Libby. So I've been listening to it. I think I'm also going to start prepping and figuring out what I want to make for dinner. I plan on continuing to listen to this for the next 30 minutes to complete my hour of reading for the day. Basically, you mince up the vegetables and then you strain them to get any liquid out of them so it doesn't make like whatever meat you're adding to it super runny. But oh my gosh, the onion in this, when I pulled it out and I was like straining it, it is burning my eyeballs. What you do now is you add the meat to it, add some seasonings, and then put it onto a baking sheet and then just bake it. Oh, I'm so excited. I hope it's good. Also, this audiobook is getting crazy. Oh my gosh. There's like people that she didn't think were psychopaths that are revealing themselves as psychopaths. It's really good so far. My 1 hour timer went off for today's reading and I made it to chapter 16 of this book. And there's already been lots of like twists and turns that I've been like, oh my gosh. And there's been characters that have been introduced that have turned out to actually also be psychopaths that we did not know it and that they are also participating in the study. Can't wait to see where this one continues. And I will see you back tomorrow for day 5. It is now day 5 of the Summerween readathon and I have been listening today to Never Saw Me Coming. I haven't rolled yet for my reading, but I've been at work all day and so I've just been listening to it while I've been working. I am now 50% of the way through the audiobook. If I roll a 3 or a 4, I'm gonna subtract 2 hours from that just to give me a little bit of like fairness in that I have already listened to quite a bit today. I've probably listened to more than 2 hours, but I'm just gonna round it off and call it 2. And some of you might be like, oh, that's cheating. Okay, but I have a job, you guys. As much as I'd like to sit around during the week and read for 4 hours straight, it's just not feasible for me to read 4 hours. But honestly, if I have to carry the time over, it's not that big of a deal. And I rolled a 3. So that means I am gonna subtract 2 hours from that because I swear I will even pull up my freaking app usage to prove to you guys because I'm sure there's somebody out there that's probably like, she didn't actually listen to it today. It shows that I got on, okay, so it doesn't tell me how long the app was open for, but it tells me when I got on the app. I opened the app at, oh, mother trucker, at 10 a.m. today. It says 4 p.m. is when I got off the app. And I will read my physical book for at least 1 hour today. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that and I will check back in once I've reached that point. Okay, it is currently 8:30. I have finished my hour of reading, but I am only, because I kept reading even after my hour's up because I'm really liking this and I'm close to the end, so the suspense is building. I only have about 50 pages left of this book, so I am actually gonna go past my hour that I had left and I'm just gonna finish this book. We're gonna do that and then I'm gonna report back because I have a feeling some crazy stuff is gonna happen. Hey, you remember like 5 seconds ago when I said I thought I knew who the killer was? Yeah, I was wrong again. Not at all who I thought it was gonna be. And I finished the book. I would rate this probably a 3.5 out of 5 stars. I think that this one was really good, again, based on all the commentary I've already said, but I thought that the twists and turns throughout this book were really well. I had no clue who it was up until it got revealed in the book, so it wasn't obvious, at least to me, but we all know by this point I'm not a detective, so take my word with a grain of salt, I guess. I think if anything, it's closer to a 4 star, so like a 3.5 to a 4 star for me. I think this is probably the best book that I've read so far in the readathon, but I think that all of them have been really good reads so far. I've kind of lucked out on the picks because I've not heard of any of these books when I picked them up. I'm hoping that we go 4 for 4 with good books, so I guess tomorrow we will roll the dice and see how long I get to read An Unlikely Coven for. It is now day 6 of our Summerween readathon and I only have 1 book left to read, which is An Unlikely Coven. So all we have to do is roll to see how many hours I'm reading today and start reading this book. Looks like I will be reading for 2 hours today. I feel like this will be a great book to end it off of. I know that this book was rated pretty highly on Goodreads and people really seem to like it. I didn't read any of the reviews, but it gives me high hopes for this book and getting started with it. But let's get to reading for 2 hours today. I just finished my 2 hours worth of reading and I am about almost halfway. So far I'm really liking it. It's definitely a lot more light-hearted writing than any of the horror or thriller novels I've been reading. So far we have met our main character Joan, and she has finally gone back home, and her family is just a bunch of rich, powerful snobs basically is what it seems like. The dynamic between her and her family is definitely high tension in the fact that it seems like she's kind of the odd one out at times, and we've met her best friend and the human that they have captured, the human turned witch that they have captured, and right now it seems like they're just trying to figure out how to stop this spell and reverse the spell that turned said human into a witch, because there are seeming to be lots of adverse effects. It's not like they were a natural born witch. There's definitely lots of negative side effects, and they also don't know who did it, but I'm really liking it so far. I think that it's really well written. It's very fast paced, obviously, because I've almost made it halfway through this book, but I might read for a few more hours tonight. We will see, but if not, I will see you back tomorrow for day 7. I have officially finished An Unlikely Coven, which completes our Summerween readathon. I think I would rate this book probably a 3.5 out of 5 stars. I really liked the plot. I thought it was fast-paced and really fun. I think that there were some times that I felt like some scenes or some chapters were a little bit too drawn out, so sometimes I was unable to focus, but I don't think that that's necessarily the book's fault. I think that that's just me towards the end of reading 4 books. I think that the plot twist at the end was really interesting. I couldn't really stand her family in this book. I feel like they were really annoying, and honestly her sister wasn't my favorite either, but I mean that's besides the point. I don't want to get into too much detail and spoil anything for anybody, so I think that's where I'm going to end the video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I think that this Summerween readathon just got me even more excited for fall, which is coming up. The 4th of July is happening soon, so I'm actually super excited for after that point, because I feel like summer kind of speeds up and then you blink and it's fall, so I'm pretty excited for that, and I will see you in the next one.